Hey, welcome to Impact Marriage with Nick and Leslie Edwards. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us on this special Mother's Day edition of Impact Marriage. You know, it is our vision and just direction to be able to empower men and impact families and shape generations. And the role of mother on this special Mother's Day is so important. And so I look forward to unpacking that with you as we just dive into this topic. A really kind of a fun topic, a loving topic, and a very difficult topic for so many on so many different ways. So I'm so glad that you've chosen to join us. We are so honored to be in this journey with you.
Yeah, super excited. Before we start, just want to say thank you to those of you that have supported us, both prayerfully, financially. It's been such a blessing to see just those of you that have joined with us and partnered with us and just provided for us as we've gone on our trip, or we're about to go on our trip. Just looking forward to that. If you feel led to continue supporting us, we would love that. There's a like and subscribe. Join us. Just wanted to say thank you. It's been so great visiting with so many of you. Our prayer for this ministry is that, just like the name says, that it's an impact in you. And it's been so great and such a blessing, those of you that have shared with us how it has impacted you. And just, I was telling you, I ran into a former student of mine who said, hey, your podcast showed up on my feed, and man, just thank you for what you're doing. So just a blessing to us when you guys share that with us. And just again, just thank you for those of you that have partnered with us financially. We'd love for you to continue to do that as we seek to impact generations and move forward. And just, that's what we're here for. We're here to bless you guys and to honor God with our story and kind of where we've been, and just thankful for the journey that we're on with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Every week we want to deal with the hard things. We want to deal with the things that maybe are said or unsaid or not said clearly. And how do we deal with those things? So many things that we maybe just dwell on ourselves and wrestle with, whether it's in our marriage or within us personally, whether it's something we wrestle with God and going, what is the character of God and the nature of God? And how do I understand God more? And how do I grow in that relationship? And just to hear people who they didn't even like and subscribe at the time. They just came across their feed because people just like you share and make comments. And so it is such a blessing to us, and that you continue to give. We are excited to bring you ongoing teaching, even as we prepare for that trip and throughout that trip, to bring some very special teaching as we travel to all those historical places throughout Scripture.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So Mother's Day this day, we had the privilege of being able to spend some time with my parents last weekend, and your mom this weekend, and just honoring those mothers that are in our lives that have impacted us. And so so your parents are actually on a cruise right now. They are. They decided to travel
Mother's
and
Day,
enjoy it.
Traveling and getting to spend some time with my mom over the weekend, and just thinking about where we are today and just the impact that those women had on us, and how throughout our lives we've had special women, you know, even thinking of how we've done this in church before about honoring moms, stepmoms, honoring spiritual moms and grandmothers, that it's not just a ladies' day, it is a mom's day.
Yeah.
And there's something about the spiritual impact that a lady has on her family, on her community, on the world around her, that as a mom, it's very unique.
Yeah. I always think of Mother's Day as this very, it's not ironic, that's not the right word to say, but it's this conflicting of emotions. Like, there are so many women, I'm probably going to get emotional. Like, I sat next to a lady that she lost her mom 2 months ago. And so it's a hard Mother's Day. Wow. And just knowing families that struggle with infertility, families that struggle with loss of children. Like, Mother's Day can be a very hard day, but it's also just a blessing, you know, as we get to honor our moms and the impact we made. And we have teenagers, and that's hard. But then on Mother's Day, you get a sweet message from your kid. Hey, you're an amazing mom. And it feels great. But it just always comes with these mix of emotions for me. And I don't know why. That has never been a part of our journey. Loss of a child or miscarriage. I just have such a heart for those people. So I just say to the families that are struggling with that if you've had a miscarriage, that you are a mom. And it is Mother's Day for you.
Wow.
Because you grieve for your child. All the things that you feel as a mother, you feel when you find out you're pregnant. And we talked about this on our biblical marriage episode, that just a mom feels that differently. So just want to say, sometimes it's not a happy Mother's Day. It's just thankful and blessed and just focusing on who God has called us to be in those times in a Mother's Day. So,
I think one of the things that makes you such an amazing mom is just your heart. You are compassionate. We talked about last week about laughing and having a good time, and you are wonderful at that with our daughters. But you show them such deep love and compassion that I think a dad teaches strength and courage and teaches them to be proactive and to protect them. Yeah. But I think God, in his perfect sovereignty, creates mom to teach the compassion of God.
Yeah.
The love of God, the kindness of God.
The
tenderness of God. And it is his kindness that leads us to repentance. That's the verse
talked a lot about
that you've talked about a lot. And I think that in you is what is so amazing, is that you teach and you display kindness to people who, honestly, I can just write off and be done with. But that's something that's broken within me that is strong and is your strength and your character, is that you show kindness and that you're wonderful at just showing love and compassion to those who are hurting, whether it's another mom, a mom sitting next to you who lost her mom, or to our daughters. And I am so honored, and I know that our daughters are going to be wonderful moms one day because of what they've learned from you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So can I ask some hard questions?
Go for it.
Let's go off
That's
script.
What we're here for. Okay.
Let's go off script a little bit.
All right.
So I work very hard to be encouraging to you. It's not a natural thing for me to speak encouraging words. I work and I try and really intentionally seek to be an encourager to you, to our daughters, to other people in my life. And I know I fell short of that. And I want to be able to honor you and just tell you how amazing you are as a mom. But I also know throughout the seasons and different seasons of life and throughout the years, you've just struggled with feeling like, man, I'm just not a great mom. I'm not a good mom. I'm not an adequate mom. And I would say, I feel like you're the top 1% of the 1%. And if you feel like that, then that has to be a feeling that a lot of moms feel. Do you think the average mom feels inadequate and insecure about who they are as a mom?
I would say yes, absolutely. Those that are striving to be great moms feel that pressure. There's such a pressure on it. And like you said, it's this compassion and it's this kindness. And when you get impatient, when you lose your cool with your kids, when you get frustrated, when you let all the other things of life come in and impact how you respond to your kids, how you act with your kids, I think that's Satan's attack on the mother. You're not very good, and I think when our kids make bad decisions, you can feel that personally as an attack. And think, one of the things that I have struggled with and I've learned and I feel like God has healed me from, and not that it's an excuse, you can just do whatever, but I struggled so much in my young mother journey. When our girls were little, I would lose my cool with the kids, or I would snap at the kids, or just be frustrated and act out in that frustration and sin in my anger with my kids, how I responded to them, the things that I said to them. And I used to beat myself up about it. Oh my gosh, I'm just a terrible mom. I'm not good at this. I get frustrated. I just beat myself up. And I just felt like I had such a peace that God just revealed to me that God is bigger than any of my parenting fails. God is bigger than any parenting fail that I have. And we're never going to be, we didn't have perfect parents. We're not going to be perfect parents. None of that happens. But God is bigger than any of my parenting fails. And that's not an excuse that you just get to be whatever. You strive to be better and to be more holy in your parenting and how you live and everything. And you seek the wisdom of God. You seek the kindness of God to transform all of those fruits of the Spirit into how you parent your children. But it was such a release to me that when as I prayed through my hurt in that and my fear and my worry, which was another part, that we talk about that I think a lot of women fear. But it was just such a release just to feel God is more powerful and bigger than any of my parenting fails. And that what God has in store for my children and what God has called my children to be is better than that. And God knew who I was going to be as a parent, and He knew who my children were going to be as children. And He's the orchestrator of all of that. He put them together. And not that there's not going to be explosive episodes, because you're teenagers and they're girls and they're moms, and there are some explosive moments. And there's
a lot of estrogen, and there's a lot.
And there's a lot of asking forgiveness for my kids. Hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have responded in that way. And showing your kids that tenderness and that restoration part of it. But to me, that was such a healing part of it that I still have to remind myself, and reminded myself over and over and over back then. It's just, that's what I felt God is, that God is bigger than any of my parenting fails.
I just want you to hear that. I believe there's someone who's watching this right now, and you just feel like a failure.
Yeah.
You feel like you have wronged your kids. You've been wrong in your marriage. You've been wrong with how you've parented. And I just want you to hear what Leslie just said. God is bigger than your failures.
Yep.
That His grace is sufficient in all those situations. That your job is not to be the perfect parent, but to continue to point them to Christ, even in your failure. Yep. That you point them to Christ, that you ask them to forgive you. You show grace and kindness and compassion. Even in your fails, God is bigger than all of it. And He has a plan for your children.
Yeah. So it was just very freeing to believe that and to read that. And I didn't believe it immediately. It's a long process, and it took a while.
The enemy wants to say you're a 100%. Failure, that you have ruined your kids, and that you've done this wrong and you've done this wrong. And He says, but my grace is sufficient for you.
For both. My grace is sufficient for you as a parent. My grace is sufficient for our kids. Like, it's both. The grace is sufficient on both sides of that.
Just thinking about that for a second, and just thinking about God's grace and sufficient, and how He has continued to transform you and renew your joy, and give you laughter, and give you those sacred moments of grace where your daughter just sends you, hey, you're an amazing mom. I love you. Throughout those different times, God just continues to say, I'm not finished.
Yeah.
I'm not finished. The story's not over. And I think that's what we get so caught up with when our 3-year-old acts crazy, when our 13-year-old acts like you are off the rails.
The worst human in the world.
You are off the rails, and they think you're the worst person in the world, and you're going, this is why some animals eat their young. You're going through all this. That God said, I'm not finished with the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for us to remember, that God's not finished with us, and He's not finished with our children. I don't think I told you this. A week ago, I was going somewhere with one of our girls, and we were just talking about life, and we're talking about someone who couldn't say they're sorry. And I just told one of our girls, I said, I hope that you've seen me apologize and me own my wrong. And I know I've had my issues as a dad, and I've lost my temper. I've done things wrong. I've said things wrong. even when I was trying to do it right, I did it wrong.
Yeah.
And she said, no, you did own those things and you apologized for them. And through that, you taught us that we can screw up and still be okay.
That's cool.
And I went, oh, I didn't know we were going there, but you planted this nugget. And I think that's what you have done. And I think that's what moms do is you plant something.
Yeah.
You plant seeds in a children that a dad doesn't plant. He plants different seeds for different purpose. And together they are hopefully leading your children to seek after the things of God.
Yeah.
And so how you protect and how you love and how you show kindness and compassion, how, dad says they scrape their knee and dad says rub some dirt on it, right?
Yes.
And they go to mom and they can cry on mom's shoulder. Mom puts a Band-Aid on them, slaps them on the butt and says, all right, get back out there. Through different seasons, you need those different things. And it can't be all one or all the other. And I think that's why God created the family to be perfectly complementary.
Yeah.
That husbands and wives have different roles so they can complement one another. They're different, but because they have different purpose, but they come together as one. Same way with mother and dad. I think that's why the enemy seeks to destroy the family so
100%.
much. That if I can destroy your heart and make you feel like you're a failure, so therefore you don't do the things that show the loving kindness of God to your children, that creates a callousness in them.
Yeah.
That continues to pass down. And I think that's a little bit of where generational sin comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are so many people, we were both blessed with great moms that showed us that love of Christ, not that they were perfect in any way. We're not going to be perfect. But I think we were blessed in that kind of led to some of the things. I think there were both things that we wanted to do differently. Moving forward, you always do. You want to be better. I think our parents wanted us to be better. We want to be better. I want my girls to be better at this than I was. I think there's a lot of people that didn't grow up with great examples of what a mother looked like and what a godly mother looked like. But I think it's exactly what you said in that. It's your grace is sufficient for me. Like I've just always, like as when you go to women's retreats or you talk about things on Mother's Day, that it wasn't for no reason that God said, I want Jesus to be born of a woman. Like he made Mary as the mother of Jesus, that he loved as a mother. That doesn't go, it shouldn't go unnoticed.
Absolutely. Okay. So, my ADD brain. Okay. So just thinking about just now, we didn't talk about this and we didn't talk about a lot of this stuff today in our prep, but thinking about the argument between Mary and Joseph when they leave Jesus behind.
At the temple the first time they forgot him.
And
he must have been like such a quiet.
No, I don't think it's that at all. I think they're part of a caravan and there's just a bunch of people that are traveling together. And so they just assume he's hanging out with little Billy over here, or he's with Peter's family, or he's with another family.
You lost Jesus.
You lost Jesus. I mean, how much of a parent's group can that be?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And he says, why were you looking for me? I was about my Father's business. But even in that, can you imagine the fear of mom that they're traveling through the desert? They're traveling and going, hey, I haven't seen Jesus in a while. Have you seen him? Oh, he must be over there. He'll be fine. That's dad going, I'm sure he's fine.
It was probably the brother that came and said, hey, Jesus isn't here. It was the brother that knew.
And that same fear and stress went through Mary.
Yeah, 100%.
Of missing her child.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same that when Jesus is on the cross, Mary is there. And it actually, I had this pulled up, and it's in John 19, and it says, so the soldiers did these things, but standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciples whom he loved standing nearby, John, writing the Gospel of John, never refers to himself as John. He always refers to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Real humble there.
It's also, but John was probably the youngest of the disciples.
Yeah. That's baby of the family syndrome.
But he was also the one who laid his head on Jesus' chest.
Yeah.
And so the disciple whom he loved, standing nearby, and he said to his mother, "Mother, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her in as his own, into his own home. And just thinking through that even on the cross, Jesus understood the heart of a mother.
Yeah.
He understood her pain of seeing her son suffer. He understood the need for, most theologians believe that Joseph had passed away at some point. That's why Joseph wasn't there and not part of the story after this gap time. And so Jesus had taken that role to take care of his mother as the oldest son.
Yeah.
Now that he's gone, he looks at John and says, "John, behold your mother." He is caring for her because she has a heart for her son.
Yeah.
That is unique for who a mother is.
Yeah.
And just seeing how God has perfectly designed that and orchestrated and even gave us this example of it.
Yeah. The other thing I love that Scripture talks about mothers is 2 Timothy.
Yeah.
When do you have that one? I don't know if you have
do.
that one up.
It says in 2 Timothy 1, it says he's praying for Timothy, and he says, this is Paul writing, it says, "As I remember your tears, I long to see you, that I may be filled with joy. I am reminded of the sincere faith, a faith that first dwelt in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure dwells in you as well. For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of hands. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but a spirit of power and love and self-control." And he's saying, what started in your mom now dwells in you.
Yeah.
And moms, you need to know what God has done in you continues in your children.
Yeah, so many people want to quote 2 Timothy 1:7.
I did not
God
give you
did
a
not
spirit
give
of
us
fear.
a spirit of fear. Oh, we talk about it all the time, but you don't realize that right before that, it's talking about the influence of his mother and grandmother, and just how powerful of a calling that is for moms. Is we're called to comfort, we're called to love, to have that compassion, but we're called to teach our children, to show them who Jesus is and to teach them those things. I love that so many times we want to think about a verse, but we don't want to think what's right before or what that relates to. We talked about that in the marriage, about the submission stuff, looking at that. But just as a call of a mom, of a godly mom, is one, how you interact with your spouse, first and foremost, setting that foundation of a husband and a wife role models for your children, both for your sons, both for your daughters, in opposite directions, crossways. Our girls learn so much about what to expect out of a husband for you. And our son, if we had one, would learn, it's the sons to the wives on both of those things kind of crisscrossing. But just so much that your children learn from a mom is what you teach them, and that compassion and showing them who God is in your family, who God is in your life, modeling those things for your kids. I want my kids to model. I know we had some friends that were making a decision, a big decision for their family. And I just texted her and I said, your kid needs to see you pray over this decision.
That's right.
Your kid needs to know as a parent what it is that you're doing, that we've told our girls so many times, hey, this is a big decision. We're going to pray over this. We're going to pray with this as a family, modeling those things. It's just so important.
Just thinking about this conversation, and you were a little nervous coming into this conversation.
In full disclosure, I told Nick at the beginning, I was like, I do not feel qualified to teach on this subject. Like, being a mother is so hard, and there is this ultimate standard. And I think social media has made it so much worse. Just like our teenagers are going through social media comparisons, I think we as moms want to compare this highlight reel, like here's this beautiful family and all their kids have these matching outfits, and that is 1 second of the 99-second chaos that was before that.
That's
where
right.
she's yelling, screaming, yanking. But I think that's such.
I will beat you if you don't smile at the
get in this
camera.
picture and smile. But I think that's such a representative of it's representative of how we feel as moms. What we struggle with is this comparison trap. But yeah, right before we started this, I was like, I do not feel qualified to teach on this. Like, I just feel I fell so often as a parent. And it was very interesting. You said, if you feel that way, you know how many other women feel that way. And I'm like, it's very true. My friends and I, we talk about it several times. When mom friends, when you know you have those friends that you can just lay, like, this is not social media pretty. This is who we are as a parent. This is who I call,
to pray for you.
To pray for me.
I am struggling.
I screwed up as a mom. I'm frustrated with this. Like those people that say, you got this, get back in the fight. I'm praying for you. But who can tell you the same thing? Whoa, I blew it in the mom department this morning. I blew it in the wife department. And just having those people that push you. But I think there's such a pressure for wives to be this perfect mom, to be this social media, Instagram worthy. And it's just not real life.
Yeah.
And it's messy and it's hard, but His grace is sufficient. I love that you talked about that. Like, your grace is sufficient. Like, I pray all the time, God, make me a good steward of my kids. They are yours, and you are bigger than any of my parenting fails. You already knew what their faults were gonna be. You perfectly orchestrated those together.
So true.
And I do think there's part of this as a mom. I've talked to a lot of my friends about it, and it's unfair that we put it on our kids. But when you first have a baby, like this perfect, right, little baby, you have all of these dreams and aspirations, and my kid's going to be the first female president, and you have all these things, right? And there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but that may not be who God has created them to be.
Yes.
And understanding that I am called to love them in a Christ-centered manner for everything that God has created them to be, and to put them in the perfect situation where God can breathe into them and speak into them, that they will hear and listen. This is who God has created you to be.
Yeah, I think it really is this verse. For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God.
Yeah, I get to be a fan.
You get to fan into flame, and you get to put oxygen on the fire that really expands it and explodes it and allows them to walk in the fullness of the gift of God that God has already created in them. You get to push them and fan and to help mold and shape and give them a spirit, not of fear, but that you speak into them a spirit of power and love and self-control.
Yeah.
I just personality types, we've talked about this, that I'm more of let's swing for the fences, and you're more let's be calculated. I'm
Augie Garrido boss.
Yeah, a little bit of let's be a little bit more calculated. Let's go a little bit slower. You see more of the risk.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of encouragement to you and to so many moms out there, so many parents who are bound by fear. That God did not give you a spirit of fear.
That's right.
He did not give you a spirit of fear. So therefore, you need to fan into flame, not a spirit of fear.
Yeah.
But you need to fan into flame a spirit of power and love and self-control for your kids, because they see it in you. You are developing it within you. And now you are fanning into flame. You are giving strength to the gift of God for them to live out the power, love, and self-control of God in their life.
And I think it's so good. And it reminds me, going back to Romans 12, which I know we've talked about multiple times, but it just has so many implications in every area, is the be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We have all had parenting screw-ups. You may be estranged from your kids right now just because of different conflicts or things that you did wrong as a parent. And there's no time that's too late that God can't restore that. Your kid may be estranged. Your kid may be walking in a way that is opposite of what you know you've provided for them and instructed in them. But be transformed by renewing of your mind. It's not too late to seek to restore that relationship, to seek to live out. Doesn't matter what age or what stage your kids are in. It's not too late for you to learn to live out how to be a godly mother and to have that kindness and compassion by continually renewing of your mind and changing who God has called you to be in that.
Who God has called you to be.
That's right.
Yeah. So therefore you can live that out and be an example and be the courage that they need to live out God's calling upon their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just thinking about this, just to kind of wrap it up, His grace is sufficient for me. Mm-hmm. That's what allows better to always be better.
That's right.
Better is always better because His grace is always sufficient. That He doesn't leave us where we are. He doesn't leave us in the suck. He doesn't leave us in the struggle. He says, my grace is sufficient to you no matter where you're at, no matter what you've gone through. My grace is sufficient for you. And better
is always better.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us for this special Mother's Day. Leslie, thank you so much for just sharing your heart through this. I know this wasn't the easiest episode, but you're an inspiration to moms. And you're an inspiration to every woman that you encounter because they see your heart and your passion for Christ and for continuing to show the love of Christ to others. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.